It takes into account records. It takes into account everything. It is the most all-encompassing stat. And every time he drops back, the Browns lose more points than any quarterback since 2000, since True Media started.
I want y'all to hear that now. Every time he drops back, the Browns lose more points since any quarterback in 2000. The Browns ain't had no points.
Gbush just ended 2 careers on live television, and nobody saw it coming. Jay and Jason from UCSS thought they could spread lies about Shedeur Sanders without consequences, claiming he's the worst quarterback this century by EPA, saying he can't read defenses, can't flip protections, can't make tight window throws. But then Garrett Bush stood up, folded his hands like a villain in a movie, and proceeded to dismantle every single lie with receipts, stats, and pure facts. What happened next wasn't just a debate, it was a public execution. And the entire football world is talking about how one man defended Shedeur Sanders and exposed the biggest haters in Cleveland sports media. This is the breakdown you've been waiting for.
Y'all notice points are being put on the board. Touchdowns are being scored. Shedeur Sanders has played 5 games, and 3 of them each was 20 points or better. Dylan Gabriel played 6 games.
Look, let me set the stage for you, because what went down on UCSS yesterday was absolutely insane. You've got Jay and Jason, 2 of the most notorious Shedeur Sanders haters in Cleveland media, sitting there ready to do what they always do. Trash Prime's son, make up statistics, and act like they know football better than everyone else. But what they didn't count on was Gbush being in the building. And not just Gbush being there, but Gbush being ready. Because if you watch the footage, you can see him sitting there with his hands folded, just listening to these 2 clowns talk. He's not interrupting, he's not getting emotional, he's just sitting there like a chess player watching his opponent make all the wrong moves. And that's exactly what Jay and Jason did. They walked right into the trap. So the conversation starts innocuous enough. They're talking about the Browns' recent games, discussing quarterback play, and then Jason drops the first bomb. He says the Browns gotta take a quarterback in the draft. Not might take one, not should consider taking one, but they gotta take a quarterback. And you can see Gbush's face. He doesn't say anything yet, but you know he's thinking, oh, so we doing this today? Okay, bet. Jay jumps into cosign, talking about how the Browns will be picking 2nd overall, how they won't even have to trade up, how they absolutely need to take either Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore. And the whole time, Gbush is just sitting there, quiet, calculating, waiting for his moment. Then Jason says, I want to hear why, like he's challenging Gbush to defend Shedeur. And that's when you know it's about to go down. Because Gbush leans forward and says, I'm interested in hearing the why. Translation, okay, go ahead and dig your own grave. I'll wait. And boy, did they dig. Jason starts going off about how Shedeur needs more around him, how the offensive line isn't good, which, by the way, is facts and everybody knows it. But then he takes it too far. He starts talking about EPA metrics, claiming Shedeur is the worst quarterback this century.
Out, and it's going to get nasty because people are going to want to see it. So in that case, no, the Cleveland Browns and Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, the best thing in the world for them to do is want to see Shedeur Sanders ball out. The best thing, and by the way, if he does play well, they're going to be able to take a great victory lap and get here and be able to like sign their deal away for life. Like, come on, like the first thing they're going to say is, look, we took him in the 5th round. Nobody else took him in the 5th round. We took him here, and guess what? We developed him too. And now look how we got. Think how smart you look if you have the Deshaun Watson deal. You get him for a discount. You develop him.
Hold up. Let's pause right there. This man really sat on live television and said Shedeur Sanders is worse than Jamarcus Russell, worse than Ryan Leaf, Worse than every bust, every backup, every practice squad quarterback that's touched an NFL field in the last 25 years? That's what he's saying when he throws out that worst quarterback this century line. And here's the kicker. EPA, expected points added as a standardized metric, didn't even exist in its current form until the mid-2000s and wasn't widely used until the 2010s. So how are you comparing 2025 data to 2000 when the methodology wasn't even being tracked the same way? It's like comparing apples to spaceships. But Jason doesn't stop there. He doubles down, saying the metric takes into account down and distance, field position, home or away, time and score, and that it's the most all-encompassing metric you can use. He's throwing around analytics jargon like he's an NFL general manager instead of a guy sitting in a studio making hot takes for clicks. And the whole time, Gbush is still just sitting there, still quiet, still folding his hands like a Bond villain watching his plan come together. Then comes the real disrespect. Jason says, and I quote, "He still doesn't know what he's looking at. He still doesn't flip protections. He doesn't know when he's hot. He can only throw to wide-open receivers. He doesn't make tight window throws. He doesn't throw guys open." Every single one of those statements is a lie, a verifiable, tape-proven lie. We've all watched Shedeur Sanders this season. We saw him changing protections at the line against the Bills. We saw him telling his running back exactly who to block against the Bears. We saw him throw that preseason touchdown in a tight window that had everyone saying, "That's an NFL throw." We saw him lead the Browns in rushing for 3 straight weeks because he was getting out of the pocket and making plays with his legs. But Jason sits there and says none of that happened. He says people in the building told him Shedeur doesn't know what he's doing. And that's when Gbush finally had enough.
Structure better. Okay, well, he took what was given to him underneath the last game against the Bills. By the way, who's a Super Bowl caliber team. Last week against the Bears, Super Bowl caliber team. Both teams 11 wins. So, I don't know what you expect. This is 2 playoff teams, 2 of the best teams in the league, and he's playing with backups at offensive line. His number 1 running back is out of the game, no receivers, and in 5 or 6 games, we use these stats to say, oh, he's not the guy. But I just saw Dylan Gabriel not do that. I didn't see Deshaun Watson not do that.
Gbush starts methodically taking them apart. First, he addresses the fantasy football mentality that's ruining football analysis. He points out that the same people who said Kenny Pickett was the deal watched him throw for 5 yards in a game. The same people hyping Jackson Dart watched him throw for 32 yards. The same people crowning Cam Ward as the number 1 pick watched his numbers look pedestrian all season. Then Gbush hits them with the context that Jason and Jay conveniently ignored. The offensive line is statistically the worst in the league. The receiving core gets the least amount of separation. The receivers don't catch the ball when it's open. And on top of all that, the Browns are missing most of their weapons. But here's where Gbush really starts cooking. He brings up Shedeur's 360-yard game and asks why we're disqualifying that performance. He points out that Kenny Ward, the supposed number 1 overall pick, didn't have better numbers. He mentions Josh Allen throwing 12 for 19 for only 130 yards in a game. He's showing them that if you want to cherry-pick stats and performances, you can make any quarterback look bad. And then Gbush drops the bomb that exposes the entire narrative. We moved the goalposts so much, our backs should be hurt. We should be sponsored by U-Haul. Boom. He's calling out exactly what's been happening. When Dylan Gabriel was the quarterback, the narrative was, our offense is all underneath. We need someone who can throw it downfield. Shedeur comes in, starts launching deep balls, completes them at a higher rate than other rookies, and suddenly the narrative shifts to, well, he needs to play better in structure. So Shedeur adjusts his game against the Bills, takes what's given underneath, works the short passing game, and now that's not good enough either. You literally can't win with these people, and Gbush is exposing it in real time. But he's not done, not even close, because now Gbush starts breaking down the statistical reality that completely destroys Jason's worst quarterback narrative.
So when you look at it, a guy who was in the 5th round, who's already thrown for 360 yards in a game, but we disqualify that because it just wasn't what we wanted to see. But yet and still in that game, Cam Ward is the number 1 overall pick. His numbers didn't look better than that. You go into this game, I just saw Josh Allen throw for 12 and 19 for 130. Like, let's keep it real. A lot of times what we be doing is, if you like the quarterback, you can find a stat to say you like him. If you don't like the quarterback,
he starts pulling up game scores. Let's go through this together because it's important. Joe Flacco era. Browns versus Bengals, 16 points. Browns versus Ravens, 17 points. Browns versus Packers, 13 points. Browns versus Lions, 10 points. Dylan Gabriel era. Browns versus Vikings, 17 points. Browns versus Steelers, 9 points after throwing 60 passes. Browns versus Dolphins, 31 points, all run game. Browns versus Patriots, 32 points. Browns versus Jets, 27 points. Browns versus Ravens, 23 points. Now watch what happens when Shedeur Sanders takes over. Shedeur Sanders era. Browns versus Raiders, 24 points, win. Browns versus 49ers, 26 points. Browns versus Titans, 29 points. Browns versus Bears, 31 points. Browns versus Bills, 20 points. You see that? In 5 games, Shedeur had 3 games over 20 points. Dylan Gabriel played 6 games and only had 2 over 20 points. Joe Flacco had 0 games over 20 points. The math doesn't lie. The tape doesn't lie. The scoreboard doesn't lie. Since Shedeur Sanders became the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, the team has looked better, played better, and scored better. Period. Full stop. End of discussion. But Jay and Jason want to sit there and quote EPA metrics that don't even make sense in context. They want to reference people in the building who supposedly told them Shedeur doesn't know what he's doing. And Gbush asks the million-dollar question, what people in the building? The people next door? The people at the hot dog stand? What people? Because if anyone in the Cleveland Browns organization is actually saying Shedeur Sanders doesn't know how to read defenses or flip protections, then they need to be fired immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Expeditiously, as T.I. would say. Gbush then breaks down the actual football that Shedeur has shown. He talks about how Shedeur threw for 360 yards in a game as a 5th-round rookie with the worst offensive line in football and receivers who can't get separation. He mentions how Shedeur led the team in rushing for 3 straight weeks, proving he's not just a pocket passer, but an athlete who can extend plays.
Look, here's the real truth about what's happening with Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. You've got a 5th-round pick who came into a dysfunctional organization with the worst offensive line in football, receivers who can't get open, a coaching staff that's getting fired, and massive pressure from day one because of who his father is. And despite all of that, he's put up 360 yards in a game. He's led the team in rushing for 3 weeks. He's thrown touchdowns in tight windows. He's changed protections at the line. He's adjusted his game based on what the coaches asked him to do. He's helped the Browns score more points than they did with Joe Flacco or Dylan Gabriel. But Jay and Jason want to focus on EPA metrics and unnamed sources in the building to claim he's not the guy. They want to move the goalposts every single week. They want to compare him unfavorably to quarterbacks who will go in the top 5 next year, despite those quarterbacks having significantly better supporting casts. And Gbush is not having it. He's standing up for Shedeur because the tape tells a different story than the narrative. The numbers, when viewed in proper context, tell a different story. The eye test tells a different story. Is Shedeur Sanders perfect? No, he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to have bad games. That's part of development. But to sit there and claim he's the worst quarterback of the century, that he doesn't know how to read defenses, that he can't make NFL throws, that's not analysis. That's agenda-driven hate. And the beautiful thing about what Gbush did on UCSS yesterday is he didn't get emotional. He didn't yell. He didn't call them names. Well, at least not on air. He just methodically, calmly, systematically destroyed every single argument they made with facts, context, and logic. He showed them the game scores. He referenced specific plays. He called out their moving goalposts. He exposed their cherry-picked statistics. He questioned their unnamed sources. He broke down the organizational dysfunction that's impacting Shedeur's performance. It was a masterclass in how to defend someone against bad faith criticism. And the fact that it's all on tape, going viral across social media, means Jay and Jason can't hide from it. They can't pretend it didn't happen. They can't walk it back. Gbush cooked them thoroughly, completely, with all the sides, the baked beans, the potato salad, the coleslaw, everything. It was a full weenie roast, as the kids say. And you know what the craziest part is? Jay and Jason are going to keep hating. They're going to keep moving goalposts. They're going to keep finding new reasons why Shedeur isn't the answer, because that's what haters do. They don't let facts get in the way of their narrative. But now, every time they say something negative about Shedeur Sanders, people are going to remember this moment. They're going to remember Gbush sitting there with his hands folded, calmly dismantling their arguments. They're going to remember the receipts. They're going to remember that these two have been wrong about Kenny Pickett, wrong about Dylan Gabriel, wrong about Joe Flacco, and they're wrong about Shedeur too. The CU Antis, the Kool-Aid Mafia, everyone who's been supporting Shedeur through this journey, they got their vindication yesterday. They got to watch someone with a platform stand up and speak truth to the lies. They got to watch the haters get exposed in real time. And for Shedeur, he doesn't need to say a word. He's got people like Gbush who will go to bat for him. He's got the tape that speaks for itself. He's got the scoreboard showing the Browns are better with him under center. At the end of the day, this whole situation shows you exactly what Shedeur Sanders is up against in Cleveland. He's not just battling opposing defenses, he's battling a media narrative built on lies, cherry-picked statistics, and personal bias. But yesterday, Gbush showed the world what happens when you bring facts to a hate fight. Jay and Jason got absolutely demolished, and they deserved every second of it. The question now is, will the Browns organization let media clowns influence their decision-making, or will they trust what the tape shows, what the scores show, and what their own eyes tell them about Shedeur Sanders? What do you think? Did Gbush completely destroy Jay and Jason, or what? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're tired of the Shedeur Sanders hate and want to see more people defending Prime's son with facts, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We're going to keep exposing these haters every time they try it. Trust me, this is just the beginning.